A little while ago, I was reading the comic book Batman Kings of Fear. The story is about Batman who gets infected with Scarecrow's fear toxin. Batman has been fighting crime and saving Gotham for years, but wonders if he actually made a difference. In his fear-induced state, he sees a Gotham without Batman. This version of Gotham is safer, with less crime and no masked supervillains. But would Gotham really look like that without Batman? That's what we're discussing today. In the justice system, there are 4 goals to punishment: retaliation, protecting society, preventing recurrence, and deterrence. Retaliation is basically giving justice to the victim. The offender did something bad, so they deserve a punishment.
I'm vengeance.
Protecting society is putting someone in prison to make sure they don't commit any more crimes. Preventing recurrence focuses more on rehabilitation. We want to make sure the offender doesn't commit any more crimes, so we can try to help them by making sure they go to therapy, for example. Deterrence is Batman's preferred technique. He induces fear in criminals. He wants offenders to know that if they commit a crime, Batman will go after them. And Batman does not always work by the book. He is more violent and uses more aggressive techniques to capture offenders. In Arkham Origins, Batman even literally tells Alfred he is fear.
No, not maybe. I am. When the mugger or the thief stops to think twice, that is fear. That is what I am. That is why they hired assassins, because I am the reason the criminals breathe easier when the sun rises. So
Deterrence is based on the rational choice theory. People can choose between 2 types of behavior. They either break the law or follow the law. People weigh the pros and cons of both options. If one option leads to a bigger win, the option is the most desirable. An option that leads to a big loss is not the one you want to choose. The Joker may think that blowing up a building is fun and hilarious, and those positive feelings outweigh the bad, such as being caught by Batman. Heck, in the Joker's case, he probably even likes the interaction with Batman. When it comes to criminal law, many of us follow those rules because we have internalized them. We won't rob someone not out of fear of punishment, but because it's part of our norms and values. In cases like this, deterrence doesn't really work. For other people, rules are not part of their norms, but they won't commit such a crime because they want to be accepted by a social group or society. Robbing someone would mean they get disapproved and become outcasts. For a minority of people, they won't commit a crime simply because it's the law, and not complying would mean receiving a punishment. These people do not rob someone out of fear for a sentence. For this group of people, the harder the punishment, the more fear. Or so you would think. When people commit a crime, it's not only the type of punishment that plays a role in deciding whether or not they will go through with their plan. It's also how big the perceived odds are that they will get caught, and the odds that the judge will sentence them to such a severe punishment. In Batman's case, the villains know that security in Arkham isn't really that great, and they seem to be able to just walk out of there whenever they please. Batman is also just a man, so maybe the villains realize there is a chance of beating him, even though those odds may be small. It's like buying a lottery ticket. People know the odds of winning are slim, but they still try. So the pros of the crime outweigh the bad, and the punishment they may receive is not hard or consistent enough to stop them. So the only real scary part about committing crime in Gotham is the chance of getting beat up by Batman. But is that enough? And does it even work? I just explained deterrence as if it's very easy to know for which people it would work or not. But there is one very important aspect I left out: mental illness. Batman's most notorious villains all end up in Arkham Asylum, which is not a regular prison. It's an asylum for the criminally insane. It's where offenders with mental health issues end up. Deterrence doesn't work as well on people who abuse alcohol or drugs, people who are mentally underdeveloped, and people who lack self-control. That last one is very important, because self-control is an executive function. Executive functions are higher control functions of the brain. Other examples are emotion regulation, planning, organizing, goal-oriented behavior, and reaction inhibition. Many people who are neurodivergent or suffer from mental illness have difficulty with acting in a goal-oriented and adapted way. An example is someone with ADHD who simply cannot focus in class, or someone on the autism spectrum who struggles working on a task because of sensory overstimulation. Now, obviously, this is not their fault. People who have difficulties in executive functions have a brain that simply works differently. And I am in no way saying that those people will commit a crime. But this is a reason why deterrence alone may not work on them. People who are impulsive, for example, may not think their actions through before acting upon them. The issue with Batman is that his villains almost all suffer from some mental disorder, and executive dysfunction are quite common in mental health issues. People with anxiety, major depression, bipolar disorder, ADHD, autism, schizophrenia, and so on can all have difficulties in the executive functions. And as I mentioned earlier, deterrence of crime is less effective on people with executive dysfunctions. This means that Batman, as a symbol of fear, doesn't scare his villains enough to make them stop committing crimes. We can conclude that Batman may put people in prison, but in the long run, he does not help stop them from committing crimes. At most, he stops the henchmen of relapsing. The last question we have to ask is, if Bruce never became Batman, would these villains still exist? This question can be answered quite easily because there is an entire Batman the Animated Series episode about it. Yes, the villains would still exist, but not in the same way they do now. The only two villains that probably wouldn't exist are Joker and Harley Quinn. The Joker because he is just here to play a game with Batman, he would either find someone else to toy with, or he would never even be born, especially if he followed the Killing Joke origin story. And, of course, with no Joker, there would be no Harley Quinn. Unless she would fall in love and become obsessed with another criminal. However, if we look at Harley since she's been together with Poison Ivy, she became more of an anti-hero and less of a villain. In general, we can conclude that Batman's technique of scaring villains is not very effective because of their executive dysfunction and mental health issues. However, Batman is not the primary cause of crime in Gotham because most villains would still exist one way or another without Batman. If you like these types of videos, please press that subscribe button and feel free to recommend a topic or character you want me to analyze in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and have a very nice day. Bye!